Greetings, everybody, and welcome to Triumphs for June the 30th. We are pleased to be joined by the all-time leading scorer in basketball history, Abu Kalusa, one of the finest long-range shooters this area has ever seen, and obviously a 2001 graduate with the Vikings who went on to start both at John Wood and Hannibal LaGrange. Kellen Fernetti, a name you know is familiar to a lot of folks, and I think a lot of folks know that Kellen's found some success coaching at the community college level. First a Cook, and now he's at Lamar coaching the women there. And first of all, Kellen, when along this journey do you kind of figure out that coaching was going to be your end game?
Well, I almost stumbled upon it. I finished up playing Hannibal LaGrange in 2005. And then from there, I had a semi-professional basketball tryout in the summer of 2005. Thought I was going to play in a startup league. It was called the AAPBL, and it was going to be up in kind of the Dakotas and Kansas, that kind of area there. And then the league folded before it even started. So at that point, I was kind of considering what I wanted to do, and that's when my younger brother Bryant said that they needed a JV basketball coach at West Prairie La Harpe at the time. But those two were the co-op, and got the JV position, and then from there I knew that's exactly what I wanted to do and wanted to coach from that point forward.
Your family obviously has been an athletic family all along, and I don't know that's a big surprise that you ended up doing something close to basketball and that your family has stayed close to sports. But that fact, you guys have always loved it so much and part of it, how much of that kind of fueled this direction?
It definitely did. I mean, it fueled it. When we grew up, I mean, it's pretty much all we did was we were on the ball fields, or we were in a gym, or we were outside shooting, practicing, working on our sports. My grandfather, he coached, for many years, a variety of sports, and my dad did, summer league baseball and that sort of thing, and there's no doubt that had a great impact on me wanting to get into coaching and really just kind of wanting to stay in sports as long as I could. And that's what's great about coaching is you're always in the game. You're always in it. You're always a part of a team and all that kind of stuff. So no doubt, when it got done with playing, I thought that was the next best thing.
I know obviously your brothers have had great experiences, but among them you probably had the most charmed, especially being part of a state champion and being able to do that back in '98, be part of that. And how special is that? How much of being a part of the tapestry of that? I know you were young at that time, but you were there, on the ground floor of really one of the great teams in the history of small school basketball in the state of Illinois. How much of that do you think still has affected you as a coach?
Oh, I think it's still with me. I mean, when you're a part of a season like that and a team like that, it stays with you. And the run that we had was truly special. I mean, we got to the super sectional round. I mean, we had to face from that point forward. I mean, AC Central was undefeated, and then we got past Crispin in the Elite Eight, and then that last day on that championship Saturday, Farmington, Spring Valley Hall, both undefeated. So, I mean, 3 of our last 4 games there, against undefeated teams, and being able to defeat all 3 of them was truly special. And, that group, the juniors and seniors we had on that team, they had so much success, throughout their whole careers. And I was able to follow that with my older brother, who was a part of it for a little while growing up. And those 2 groups had always won. They were always a part of winning basketball teams growing up, had a lot of junior high success, JV success, and just seeing the work habits that they had. And we were truly a together team too. And I think that's, a key characteristic for a championship team was, for us, it really, scoring and that sort of thing, it really didn't matter who was scoring as long as we scored, that year. And just a special group of guys. And I definitely, in my opinion, and I'm biased because I was on the team and stuff like that, but one of the greatest, runs in IHSA history. But, I've been able to take a lot, not just from that team, but my whole Nauvoo Calusa career with me, to this day as a coach with my program.
And you touch on that, Kellen. Your arc was different after that group moved through. I mean, you were the offense for a time, and I know that's a fun role, but it's not an easy role to maintain because there's a lot riding on your shoulders, and I know Coach Pinkston put a lot there. And I mean, that was a relationship that had to kind of evolve. You're in the relationship business now. What did you take from the relationship with Reno and learn about dealing with players and specific players and players of different talents and different personalities that helps you today kind of building bridges? Because 90% of what you do and the success you have is built on building bridges.
Absolutely. I think the key as a coach, especially in this current era, as a coach, you have to talk to your players daily. I mean, in this part of the season, now we're in our off season, you have to reach out to your kids and make sure everything's okay. And also going over with them, like how you see their role and what's the best fit for that player on the team. And, what's best for you is going to be what's best for the team. I thought Coach Pinkston did an outstanding job with that. I know me and him throughout my high school career, I mean, we had conversations all throughout the year, preseason, off-season, summer. And he would lay it out there, not just for me, but for everybody on the role, or everybody on the team, like this is your role. This is how I see you fitting in. And I thought that was the one thing that helped our success at Nauvoo was, we got a roll in there, mid-90s, on up. We really started to have some good teams. And I think we started getting some buy-in because of the success that the high school team was having. But, we bought in. I mean, we bought in and we worked extremely hard. And, those relationships that we had and Coach going over those roles, it was key. And definitely with me being a head coach now, it's just so critical to make a clear picture and just telling your players the truth. Telling them the truth is, there's really no other way to go about it. You got to be open, honest, and sometimes those conversations can be tough. They can be difficult, but if you want the best possible team you can have, that's what you got to do.
One of the things I love about your story arc and why we brought you on is you weren't 6'7". You were a guy who had to play to skills that you had and cultivate a certain basketball skill set. I mean, it's almost the be Kentucky Fried Chicken thing, do one thing better than anybody else. It was for you shooting. I mean, and I think people to this day still put you a benchmark of how they measure, shooters in this area over the last couple of, decades. For you, would you figure that lesson out, Kellen, that basketball success was incumbent upon being that guy? And how many countless hours did that drive you to spend in the gym just honing that on?
I tell you, from an early age, that's what I worked on each and every single day was shooting the basketball. My dad, my grandfather, going to camps, going to clinics. And, it's kind of cliche, but camp coaches or, the coaches I had growing up, Coach Pinkston, I mean, Coach Elby at John Wood, Coach Moore, John Wood, Coach Barnes, Hamlet Grange. I mean, I listened to what my coaches were saying and what they were telling me to do. And, I'll never forget as a coach, as a player, I was at junior high and I went to a Quincy University shooting camp. And I can't remember the shooting coach they had come in. And he was like, you have to go game speed. You have to go game speed when you shoot. It's better to put in a shorter amount of time, game speed, than being out there for 4 hours, just kind of walking around or whatever. So that's what I did. I always set a target number for makes in a day. Always did that. And I would just try to get it done as fast as I could, really worked on my conditioning. With my build, I was pretty small, skinny, about 6 feet. I knew I wasn't going to be able to out-muscle anybody or anything like that. I knew I had to outlast. So I always tried to keep myself in peak physical condition as far as that went, just with cardio and also knew that I was going to have to play pretty much 32 minutes a night. So it was important that I put the work in, kind of behind the scenes, if you will.
the way the modern game has changed, do you feel like you might have been born a little too early? Because this era with your shooting would have fit you really, really well.
I think so. I mean, the game was so physical. I mean, I remember there were some games, if we played Q&D, I knew that was going to be a physical game. I was going to be hit, grabbed, hold, check going through the lane. I agree with you. That might have came a little bit too soon there, in the late 90s, early 2000s. The point shot, that's what it's all about now. I mean, it's such a huge factor.
The business is the business is, and you know this, Kellen, that your business isn't easy. You've had to adjust, and you just changed jobs. I mean, what's the biggest piece of advice you give to somebody who wants to go into coaching? Because that's obviously not easy, and it is a constant changing landscape. Is it be adaptable?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some changes. I mean, as opposed to when I was coming up as a player, or even when I was coaching, earlier, I started out coaching in 2005 and through now, I've seen a lot of changes. I try to structure my practices. We try to play as much as possible, 5-on-5 play, put some different emphasis on some different kinds of games, whether it's, you start out with a free throw situation, or you start baseline out of bounds. You play different kinds of 5-on-5 games, points of emphasis on defense. If we give up on a defensive possession, we're working on ball screen defense, let's say, and, we give up a initial ball screen, kick out three, I'll end the game right there, and just kind of doing an emphasis that way. When I was growing up, we would do shell defense for 45 minutes. It was 4-on-4 shell, 45 minutes, and that's what we did, and that's fine. And there's still a place for shell defense, but I think you have to do things a little bit less time in today's era. Less time and more play. That's kind of what I've kind of went to as a coach. Different emphasis and different ways of playing.
The reality, and I think it's so much tougher for guys like you who are 2-year coaches in college, is that the window of development is so much smaller, and you're constantly recruiting on a different track, Kellen. I mean, you don't have 4 years. Your rosters flip every other year in a significant way. What's the biggest challenge of that been for you? And do you enjoy the recruiting process? And I got to imagine your mind is constantly going, because you don't have a lot of time to enjoy those classes to get them signed.
No, it goes so fast, Chris. Like you said, I mean, at the junior college level, you might get a kid for 1 year, maybe 2 years. You're seeing so many transfers now, too. Each year, each of the past, I would say 5 or 6 years at the college level, I mean, the teams that I've been on as a coach, we've had, some transfers come in. I mean, a good chunk of our rosters are transfers and stuff. So, the key is you want a system at our level. I think it's got to be simplified a little bit. You definitely want to have some set plays. You want structure, but you've got to be able to kind of accelerate the process and get that team in and make sure that everybody's on the same page with what we're running. Also, what teams that I've been on, our most successful teams at the junior college level, we've been able to press and play full court, 94 feet. So that means you're able to get more kids in. And that's kind of been what we've tried to utilize and tell our teams, like, hey, if it's proven and you've earned that spot of whether it's a starter or coming in off the bench, we're going to look to play you, because we have to keep running guys or girls into that game. I think it's great if we can play 10, 11, 12 kids in a game and really get them up and down. And that's what we've tried to do, try to play fast and press and kind of more of a run and jump style press, but try to get kids out there, keep it simple, let them play. And another reason too for that system is that gives kids, film that 4-year schools want to see, hard work, full court defense, hustle play. So that's kind of the system that we've liked to try to utilize.
You have always been, since day one, a gym rat and a basketball junkie, and I know that's a meticulous part of your mind that made you successful as a player. What's the biggest important lesson about balance? Because your job is pretty demanding, and you're getting ready to get, married, and you have a family, and all of these things are filling in. What have you kind of learned, Kellen, about balance in this world and how important it is to your job?
I definitely learned a lot over the past couple of years. For a long period of time, it was just me on my own. So, you could devote all the time to the craft and to the job and everything like that. But the family's been so awesome because it's opened up a whole nother part of life, and finding that balance is key. What I try to do, I try to get a lot of things done kind of earlier in the day, up and at it early, that sort of thing. And then hopefully once practice happens, usually early or mid-afternoon, and then once practice concludes, then you can kind of have the basketball put aside and move on to the family part. So no doubt you got to have some balance. You have to keep things fresh. And I also think on the basketball side of things too, keeping that practice fresh and bringing some new ideas. I'm a fan of having music going in practice, and maybe having if it's one of my players' birthdays, they get to have the playlist for practice, and just kind of keeping things fresh is huge. And once the gym part's over, the office part's over, you got to leave it there. Leave it there. Come on home. Move on to the boys and the fiance. So things have been good in that way.
Last one for you, Kellen, because I think this is something we've asked a lot of people. You have moved on, but you're always going to carry Hancock County and Nauvoo environment with you wherever you go. How much of that do you think just the upbringing you had, the situations you were in kind of a small community where it was insular and there was a lot that emphasized the good in the world and, be a good neighbor and everybody's name. How much of that do you think carried into your success, and how much of that kind of spins forward for you now while you're coaching and you're pursuing this career?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's with me every day. I mean, I was so fortunate being able to grow up where I did, West Central Illinois, tri-state area. Sports and was so big and is still so big in that area. And I'll never forget the support that we had and the support that people had for me. And I appreciate it to this day. And there's no doubt being a part of that Nauvoo-Calusa program, it helped me doing what I'm doing now. I mean, because at Nauvoo, it was every day. And we knew that we had to put the work in every single day if we wanted to be, what we wanted to be and stuff like that. So there's no doubt it's a great area. I love coming back and visiting. And, I definitely still look up, scores and seeing how the teams are doing and all that kind of stuff. So it's still with me. And a lot of my work habits that I still have now is attributed to, growing up with the family I had and the community in Nauvoo for sure.